Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely fascinating journey to solve, well, a massive historical mystery. We're going to look at how an entire civilization, one that practically laid the bedrock for modern science, ended up experiencing one of the most dramatic intellectual declines in history. So let's jump right into it. Section 1. The Modern Science Paradox. Okay, to really set up our puzzle today, we need to look at a pretty staggering modern statistic. So think about this. Today, Muslims make up roughly 23% of the global population. We're talking around 2 billion people. Yet, out of the 488 Nobel laureates in physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics over the last 123 years, just 3 have been Muslim. That's less than 1%. And it's actually worth noting that the majority of those 3 had to travel completely outside of their home countries just to conduct their groundbreaking research. So, the really obvious question here is, what happened? I mean, how did the civilization that essentially built the foundations of modern science, literally the people who gave us the tools to understand the universe, end up here? To figure this whole thing out, we've got to travel back in time. Section 2. Pioneers of Modern Science. Let's flash back and see exactly what kind of foundational brilliance we're talking about here, because trust me, it is truly mind-blowing. You know, there's a direct line from ancient Muslim scholars straight to the subjects we study in school today. Just look at this incredible roster. We've got Al-Khwarizmi in mathematics, Ibn Sina in medicine, Jabir ibn Hayyan in chemistry, and Ibn al-Haytham in optics. These individuals weren't just participating in science. No, they were literally the architects of the modern disciplines we rely on right now. Take the word algebra itself. It traces straight back to the Arabic term al-jabr, which means completion or rejoining. This was actually coined by Al-Khwarizmi in his famous 9th century text. And he didn't just write a math book, right? His genius fundamentally changed mathematics worldwide. He gave us the numbering systems and equations that make, well, everything from modern economics to computer programming totally possible. Let's rapidly fire through some more of these incredible breakthroughs just to emphasize the sheer volume of scientific output during this era. Al-Zahrawi, he invented over 200 surgical tools that doctors are literally still using in operating rooms today. Then you have Ibn al-Nafis, who discovered pulmonary blood circulation centuries before the West. Al-Biruni accurately measured the Earth's circumference to an astonishing 99% accuracy, using trigonometry no less. Ibn Rushd figured out exactly how the retina works, and Al-Razi essentially pioneered the entire field of pediatrics. And it wasn't just math and medicine either. Here's a fantastic historical fact for you. Hundreds of years before Leonardo da Vinci even sketched a flying machine, a 9th century engineer named Abbas ibn Firnas actually designed and tested a flying apparatus. And yes, he used real feathers. It's wild, right? It just perfectly showcases the fearless innovation of the time. Moving on to Section 3, Blueprints for the University. Because you see, what's absolutely vital to understand here is that these scholars didn't just invent abstract concepts, they invented the very institutions of learning we use globally today. Just notice the direct historical parallel here. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad was this massive epicenter where global scholars translated texts and defended academic theses before panels of experts. This entire system, gathering in vast libraries and defending a PhD thesis before professors, that traces its roots directly back to these early Islamic knowledge centers. It's basically the blueprint for higher education. And this consolidated knowledge successfully transferred to the West. The House of Wisdom thrived in the 9th century, and that deeply inspired the creation of the first European universities, Oxford in 1096, Cambridge in 1209, and later, Harvard in 1636. The baton of knowledge was steadily being passed. But then, well, disaster struck the Muslim world. Section 4, The Fall of Baghdad. We now have to shift our focus to the brutal external catalyst that completely shattered this golden era. The year was 1258. The Mongol Empire invaded Baghdad, which was, at the time, the beating heart of the Islamic intellectual world. And the historical accounts of this siege are just absolutely devastating. They describe a scene of unimaginable destruction, noting that the waters of the Tigris River turned black from ink and red from blood. An estimated 1 million people were killed, and the city was burned to the ground. The House of Wisdom, along with its massive sprawling libraries, was completely destroyed. Countless irreplaceable medical, philosophical, and astronomical texts were literally thrown into the river. So this wasn't just a military defeat, right? It was a catastrophic loss of institutional knowledge that essentially plunged the entire region into an intellectual dark age. Which brings us to Section 5, the shift away from reason. Crucially, it wasn't just this physical destruction that caused the long-term decline. No, there is a massive internal, psychological shift taking place as well. Let's break down a fairly complex sociological concept here, occasionalism. Promoted by the Ash'ari school of thought, this was a philosophical belief that completely rejected the idea of natural cause and effect. Instead, it claimed that all events in the universe are direct, moment-to-moment acts of God. And this is where the conflict with science becomes crystal clear. The scientific method relies heavily on the fact that hydrogen plus oxygen equals water. It's a dependable natural cause and effect. But occasionalism? It argues that hydrogen and oxygen only become water if divinely willed in that exact fraction of a second. Think about it. If you believe predictable natural laws don't actually exist, the motivation to research and discover them completely vanishes. When we summarize the internal issues that really cemented this decline, we start to see a huge compounding effect. Anti-rationalist thought became highly prominent. Worldly sciences, like physics and math, were separated from religious education even though they used to be viewed as one and the same. Rote memorization ended up replacing critical inquiry. Brilliant intellectuals were persecuted by increasingly dogmatic rulers. And ultimately, a culture that once proudly championed free thought began to actively discourage questioning the natural world. Section 6. Reclaiming the Golden Age. So where does that leave the Muslim world today? Let's discuss what historical sources actually suggest is the best path forward. It's super vital to point out that the original Muslim pioneers did not see a conflict between their faith and the pursuit of scientific reason. Not at all. In fact, early religious texts explicitly encouraged observation, research, and uncovering the mechanics of the universe. For those early pioneers, exploring science was just a way of exploring the wonders of creation. The mindset needed to move forward is actually beautifully captured by the renowned philosopher Muhammad Iqbal. He stated, "He who creates is the master of his age." Reconciling faith with free inquiry, encouraging people to ask the hard questions, and actively pursuing knowledge, these are highlighted by historians as the absolutely necessary steps to reclaim that lost intellectual heritage. Which brings us to our final provocative question today. Can the modern world reconcile faith and reason to spark a new golden age of discovery? The blueprint is right there in history, just waiting to be rediscovered. It's such a powerful reminder of what a culture can achieve when it truly champions curiosity. I really hope this explainer has given you a much deeper understanding of these forgotten innovators and the complex forces of history. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.